What is a little bombshell your therapist dropped in one of your sessions that completely changed your outlook? 1. I was struggling with my alcoholism and we were discussing how I had been cutting back. She asked what I would consider success with regard to my drinking. I said I wanted to get to a point where it wasn't interfering with my daily life. I wanted to just be able to have a glass of wine at holiday dinners or family gatherings. She simply asked me why. Why was it important for me to drink at those times? It was as if she'd turned on a light. Alcohol had always been a key ingredient in every family function for my entire life. When I smell bourbon, I think of my uncle. When I smell vermouth, I think of my dad. Alcohol ran through almost every happy childhood memory. But even more than that, I was very afraid of the explanation I'd have to give when family and friends asked why I wasn't having a drink. I had tried to quit before, but failed. What if I admitted my problem, only to fall off the wagon? When she asked why I didn't want to completely quit, it was the first time I saw that last part of big picture. I'd be willing to drink myself to death in order to avoid being scrutinized or judged for possible future failures. That was the day I quit. I've been sober since May 6, 2017. 2. If you don't have these problems with any other person in your life, why do you think you're the problematic person in this one? 3. It sounds to me like you are trying to convince yourself to stay with your girlfriend. I'm not so sure it should be so difficult. At the time he said this, I remember it was like he said the earth is flat. I thought he was crazy when he suggested relationships don't need to be difficult. 4. Why do you think you're lazy? Then she listed off all the things she knows I'm doing for my family, my job, and my life. It kind of blew my mind when I struggled to come up with an example. She also described family dysfunction as water. Some families are messed up in a way that everyone can see the huge waves across the surface. Others are better at hiding it, but there's still a riptide that you can't see unless you're also in the water. Made me realize that trying to keep the surface from ever rippling doesn't erase what is happening underneath. But eventually I started to realize I was trying to change myself in order to stay with this person rather than just being who I am. It took me 3 more months to finally break up with her, but from that day on, I vowed to never again abandon myself just to be with someone I had convinced myself was better than me. 5. Accepting something doesn't mean you have to like it. That took away a lot of my inner conflicts about situations because I could accept a situation without expending energy internally fighting against the injustice of it. 6. You are not responsible for your parents' emotional well-being. They are independent adults who have been on this earth for many more years than you. 7. You always talk about not wanting to do to your daughters what your mom did to you. You worrying about it so much in every interaction you have ever had with them. But your children are 19 and 21 now. They are happy and healthy, and they trust you because you've never abused them in any way. So I just want to validate for you that you really have broken that cycle of violence. You did that, and you should be proud of it. I'm proud of you for it. She was like, wow, you seem very passionate. And I just sat there like, well, I mean, I can't change what I like to do. They're still fun to do. And it's like she knew when to take a step back, cause it was like, wow, I may be super depressed about my mom passing, but I'm still me. I'm still my passions, and those don't go away. 8. I was constantly bringing up how I felt like a completely different person after my mom died, like there was a marked difference between before and after her death. But once, she was asking about my hobbies. I got really into describing all the things I love to do, or at least used to do before I got into a deep depression. 9. I've never really had friends. I've had colleagues and classmates and housemates and people who have hung out with me, but I never really felt close to any of them. And I did that thing you see on here sometimes. I stopped reaching out to see if I would be reached out to, and I wasn't, which I took as confirmation that they didn't really want me around, or at the very least, that they wouldn't mind my absence. I was talking to my therapist about people I've been close to in college, and she told me to pick one and talk about him, so I did. And after I shared some basic stuff like his name and his major, etc., and a couple anecdotes, she asked me what else I knew about him, and I couldn't answer. It wasn't really a broadly applicable bombshell, but she said what else, and I started crying because I realized that for as simple as the question was, my inability to answer spoke volumes. I've never had good friends because I've never been a good friend. I'm withdrawn and reserved, and I always made others do the work to drag me out, without ever extending my own friendship in a meaningful way in return. If I wanted to have meaningful relationships with other people, I would have to build them. I'm still working on this, but I'm trying to make more offers and extend more friendliness to others in my daily life. 10. If one of your loved ones had this problem, what would you tell them? Boom, self-compassion unlocked. Another one is regarding buried traumatic memories. If you buried some shit in the yard, then later thought, oh, I wonder what that was, and dig it up, all you're going to find is some shit. 11. Stop trying to get everyone to agree. When you need everyone to agree, the least agreeable person has all the power. Really changed my outlook on planning family events. 12. Will worrying about it change the outcome? If the answer is yes, go ahead and worrying about it. I suddenly realized that I couldn't think of a situation where the answer to that question was ever yes. Really short-circuited the worrying cycle for me. 13. Is it your anxiety or hers? Mic drop. Background. I have an overbearing mother who needs to know as much as she can about what I'm doing on my own time to sleep well at night according to her. She basically treats me like a rebellious kid in a teen movie from the 90s, when I'm an independent, grown-as woman approaching my mid-30s. At the time my therapist said this, I was 28 years age and panicking about an upcoming business trip. Not the trip itself, but her reaction to me leaving the state for a few days. As I was going down the list of texts I knew she'd bombard me with, my therapist dropped this gem. She gave me permission to opt out of managing her fears like I had been doing for years. End result, I went on the trip without telling her a thing and have established a few more sanity-preserving boundaries since. 14. Anxiety lives really well in the past and in the future, but has no place in the present. Bring yourself back to the present. 15. You may just be graduating high school and you're going to be a legal adult, but you're just a kid. It's not your responsibility to take care of everyone. It was never your responsibility. Because at the end of the day, you were just a kid wondering why you had to be the marriage counselor and shielding your brother from everything. I didn't know how much I needed to be reminded how I was a kid until that moment. It made sense though on why I often feel like time went by too fast and I didn't get to enjoy being a teen in high school because I was too busy being an adult when it was never my responsibility. 16. That being selfish is okay, but being self-centered isn't. Being selfish is recognizing your needs and taking care of yourself, but being self-centered is ignoring everyone else. Oh, another one that a commenter reminded me about. Most men only know two emotions, happy and angry, because we're told that's all we can feel. That sometimes your body and mind are reacting with anger, but that's not what you're feeling. In those moments, you need to take a break and ask what emotion you're feeling. I still struggle with this one. 17. When you let him break your boundaries over and over again, it wasn't him breaking your boundaries anymore. It was you breaking your boundaries. Hit me right in the gut. But my therapist was right.